Well, first off, welcome everybody. I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking the time of being here and sharing your thoughts and your experience with us in this very important panel for students and community members alike to actually learn about the HR processes and what is going on, where we are at with this whole pandemic and how we can move forward from here. First, second off, I would like to share my screen. You all. So this meeting has been put together by North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and Massachusetts Community College, and Kat Beal will be taking over from here.
So good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our Zoom call. I know everybody is zoomed out probably, but I love being able to see folks and see your faces. I'm going to also turn this over to David to talk about one of our programs here at the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce, extremely relevant to what we're talking about today.
Morning, everyone. My name is David Genesi. I am the Marketing Communications Manager for the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce. And within the last year, the Chamber launched a brand new jobs board connecting job seekers to local employers. This jobs board is very important and very vital to the North Central Mass region as we continue to connect and build our workforce here in North Central Massachusetts. So for anybody who is interested, if you are seeking employment or even an internship or just looking for a career change, we encourage you to search for our job openings using our jobs board. This easy-to-use online jobs board provides localized listings from employers in North Central Massachusetts. Each listing includes information about the job or internship and details about how to apply for the position. We currently have over 500 listings throughout the region, so I highly encourage that you check it out. You can do that by going to www.worknorthcentral.com. That's worknorthcentral.com. And there you will also find valuable information, including some of the region's top employers, including our very own Mount Wachusett Community College. And you get to also take a deep dive into what the region has to offer. So if you know of somebody who's looking for a career change that doesn't happen to live in the area, it's also a great opportunity to help showcase everything North Central Massachusetts has as well, a place to work, live, and grow a family. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. And for those that are listening on demand, I encourage you all again to head to worknorthcentral.com to explore all the region's offerings, including, as of this recording, over 500 jobs that are now available. And who knows? Maybe we will change someone's life here today as someone goes and explores Work North Central. So I want to thank you all for, again, tuning in. I want to thank Mount Wachusett Community College for being a partner with us on this program here today. And I also want to thank our fantastic panelists that we have put together for you, each one bringing something amazing to the table here. And you're all going to be in great hands. So thank you, and I will turn this back over to Kat.
Thank you, David. I did put up worknorthcentral.com in the chat, and I hope that everyone will be able to use that. So let's review a little bit of housekeeping right now. Please make sure that you understand that we are going to do a series of questions with each panelist prior to opening this up for questions and answers. So please be sure to bring your questions. You can use the chat box if you prefer to have myself ask the question, or you can also just unmute yourself. We'll do maybe a little raise your hand so we know who wants to go next, and you can ask questions at that point. But right now, I would really like to open this up to our speakers and our presenters on the panel and have each of them introduce themselves. And we'll start with Carl Baker.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Carl Baker. I work at Seven Hills Foundation. We are a nonprofit. We work with a lot of different populations. We're the largest of our type in the state of Massachusetts. We have 4,500 employees in total. So we are very large, very well established. We've been around for 70 years. And really anything that you're looking to do in the field of nonprofit human service work, we do. We have early intervention we do with kids who have autism. We have residential programs for people with special needs. We have programs for people who are at end of life as well. So I've been with this company for about 4 or 5 years now. I've been in the industry for 17 years. So, you know, I bring a lot of experience both in the industry, but also in HR. My job title is the recruitment manager. So I oversee recruitment for really the entire organization. So if anybody, as a follow-up to this conversation, is interested in a job in this field, I welcome an email and I can follow up with you.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Melissa Glenny. Melissa?
On mute.
Oh, okay.
I knew that was going to happen when I muted myself. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Melissa Glenny.
Details, not my strength. So I'm president of Franklin Professionals in Leominster. We've been here about 9 years. And the majority of the placements that we make for companies in this area are customer service, office administration, logistics, supply chain, and some manufacturing management types of positions. So we've pivoted since the COVID situation happened, and seeing many different types of roles that we were filling previously, but we're still going strong. So I'm happy to make these connections today and share what I can to help everybody else out.
Thank you, Melissa. And also, if anyone's interested, Melissa did a webinar for us on recruiting and engaging remote employees. And that's on our website, at our webinar website. And it was very informative. I love some of the tips that she gave. So please make sure to check that out. And I'd like to introduce Lisa Rochelow.
Hi, I'm Lisa Rochelow, and my title is actually treasurer. I'm the treasurer of Rochelow Tool and Die. We're a third generation family manufacturing business in Fitchburg. Part of my roles include HR and as well as IT and legal, and wear a whole bunch of hats. We're about 60 people. We run 2 buildings, 3 shifts. So we're pretty busy. We make machinery for the plastics industry. We make the machines in one building, and then we run the machines in a different building. And we make, containers for dairy, milk, juice, as well as like pop-up cleaning wipes and medical kind of like transfer pipettes, things like that. So we are considered an essential business, and we have been working throughout the pandemic. Some people are working from home, but most people are working still, like I said, 24 hours over here in Fitchburg.
Wow, 3 shifts. That's hard. My husband's in manufacturing. I know how hard that can be with 3 shifts. I'd like to introduce Mike Quirk.
Hi, folks. I am the Human Resources Manager for United Solutions here in Leominster. I've been here for about 6 years. I've been in HR for, I guess, longer than I'd like to admit at this point. I think it's 33 years. We have manufacturing plants here in Leominster and in Mississippi. We are also a 3-shift operation, 6-7 days a week. We were considered essential even during the shutdown due to a lot of our products being sold into the hardware space, but we sell to a number of well-known vendors, Walmart, Target, Amazon.com. It's expanding all the time, so happy to be here and interested to see what we get today.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. And Samantha Wood.
Hi, I am here in Leominster. I am part of Georgia Pacific. We manufacture and support the Dixie line. We manufacture cutlery, so your knives, spoons, and forks. We have been highly affected with the pandemic. A lot of our customers are Disney World, sports arenas, schools, and obviously people have not, things have been closed and people have not been going. So we've had quite a few challenges along the way. We're still operating. I'm still here on site. I've been here about 6 years. But in terms of employment, Georgia Pacific is all across the United States. And and the sky's the limit in terms of what you want to do. We have manufacturing jobs, boots on the ground. We like to describe it like that, but we also have all kinds of other positions, finance, sales and marketing, HR, if you want to join. Look forward to answering any questions you may have. I have about 20 years experience in the human resources field, manufacturing, retail, all that good stuff. So excited to be here.
How many employees are in the Leominster facility?
How many? 200.
200. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, Deanna Zarrella.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Deanna Zarrella, and I am located here in Leominster, Mass. At a company called AIS, and we manufacture office furniture. And we were very fortunate during this pandemic that we too are deemed essential employers. So we've stayed open during this entire time, and one of the reasons we were very instrumental in helping to set up those pop-up COVID stations, particularly closer here would be the DCU center that they converted. So AIS was really able to jump in and get the station set up so that they were able to help deal with the overflow of what was happening around us with this pandemic. We have approximately 800 employees here in Leominster, and we have another manufacturing facility in Texas as well too. So again, we did weather the storm and have stayed open during this whole time. However, like most other employers, we've been hit with some employees that unfortunately, with daycare issues and everything else that happened, that we did lose an awful lot of employees that had to stay home because they didn't have the opportunity to come into work because they didn't have anyone to care for their children. So, we're just starting to get back to what I like to call the new normal. And like every other companies that's out there right now, we have opportunities in every positions. So, again, it doesn't matter what you're looking for. We have a great opportunity for anyone that's looking for something, whether it be accounting, marketing, sales, manufacturing engineer, project engineers, to manufacturing positions in and of itself. So again, we've been able to maintain where we're at today. But, again, like most of us, we're always looking for opportunities for people, especially being so local. We have 2 shifts. And it's Monday through Friday. Sometimes we do have Saturdays. Our third shift is very skeleton. It's more maintenance where we're able to do PM on machinery and equipment here. But I'm happy to be here. And I think, we've got a great team of panelists here. But I have over 35 years experience in HR as well, too. So I think, I learn something new every day. And hopefully, you're going to have some takeaways from any one of us. I'm looking forward to answering questions as well. So thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. Deanna, how many countries are represented at AIS right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I know. So if any of you have ever been here, you'll see we have all the flags up there. I think we have, to date, there might be 35 countries that we actually have here. So as we have employees come in, we like to get their native country's flag, and we hang that out on our wall. So it's very impressive when you come in and you walk through the plant and you see all these flags. So it tells a story, and it's pride. I love it. It's really, it's really cool. It really is. It's
super impactful as well. I've been lucky enough to be at AIS several times over the last few years and have just enjoyed. You walk in and it's huge wall of diversity is what you have. And it's a wonderful representation of your staff. So thank you. And thank you. Yeah, thank you to all our panelists for joining us today. And we're going to jump into some questions. And just as a reminder, please use the chat box, or you can just raise your hand, or you can write in the chat box that you have a question that you'd like to ask, and we'll open it up after. We're going to start with some questions. Sierra, is that good? You ready to start? Are we ready to start there?
Yes, but first I'd like to please introduce Deb O'Sullivan. She is the Director of Advising Career and Transfer at Massachusetts Community College. So, hi Deb.
Hi, thank you all for attending this presentation. We're excited to have you here. Please check out our website. We're the Office of Advising Career and Transfer. As Sarah may have mentioned, we have job postings for students and a whole host of support services for students. So thank you.
Yes, they have a very robust page. I checked out their page. They have a lot going on for students and graduates and those looking for employment. Okay, so let's jump in. We have some questions that we sent over to our panelists, and I'm excited to hear these answers. So we're going to start, and we're just going to go down the list, and we'll start with Carl, and we'll go down the list as we had them before. And first question is, in your opinion, what are the most important components of resumes, cover letters, and portfolios of an applicant? And as a second part, are there circumstances in which you would consider a candidate although they don't meet all of the requirements? So Carl, I'm going to open that up to you first.
Yeah, and I have to just say I'm really grateful to be the first one going so that I have all the answers. So this is what I do every single day. So I oversee recruitment here at Seven Hills Foundation. So I look at resumes from the beginning of my day to the end of my day. And the two things that I really look for is I look for accuracy. The first and foremost thing that I look for is somebody who really has their work experience, their education as accurately represented as possible in their resumes. One of the biggest turnoffs for me as a recruiter is if I've looked through your resume, I've reached out to you, set up a call, and then in the course of conversation, I find out that, you know, what you've represented on the resume isn't accurate. I would rather, even if it's not as flattering, I'd rather know the truth on a resume and really have that conversation. Particularly with COVID-19, a lot of people have been affected by this. A lot of people lost jobs or went from full-time to part-time because of childcare issues or other things. I'd rather have that conversation in an honest way than to find people trying to like skew things. So the first thing I look for is accuracy, and that's really important to me. It also indicates possibly how somebody would be as an employee. You know, if they're not willing to kind of face the truth on their resume, would that translate into their position? The other thing that I look for is kind of the range of experience. You know, what we do at Seven Hills Foundation is very different from a lot of the other organizations here today. You know, we're a mission-driven organization. So a lot of the experience that might be relevant, especially for somebody who is a college student, either in school or a recent graduate, might not be the direct experience you have from a workplace. It might be a volunteer opportunity you have or community services opportunity that you've done. A lot of schools require that upon graduation that you do at least some community services hours. Some of the best conversations I've had with younger applicants are around that and what they've done with their churches or civic organizations. So I really look for the range of experience, work-related and otherwise.
Melissa, additions to that? You're muted.
I'm going to stay unmuted if that's just okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, I think I would add to that just presentation generally. When I'll tell a quick story just to kind of drive my point home. When I was in college, I studied music, and I was doing an arrangement for an arranging class. And when I presented the score, which was handwritten, to the professor, he looked at it for about 3 seconds and he handed it back to me and he said, "You got an A." And I said, I don't know, okay, good, great. I don't know how that happened. And he said, "I can tell by the way that you've presented the score, so meticulously written, you'd have to look twice if it was printed or handwritten." He said, if you put that much care into it, I know by looking at it that it's quality work. And I would say that applies to resumes in a number of areas. I think first, just the format of it, everything being the same font, you know, the same size font throughout, you know, some of these simple things, the same consistent voice and tense. Sometimes I see resumes where someone's clearly just plunked a job description into their resume, and then somewhere else they're using verbiage like, "I did this and I was responsible for that," and then it's just all over the place. So I'd like to know from a resume that someone can think in an organized way, and I think resumes are an indicator of that. I know there's some other thoughts I had about this. I would say I'll stick to the resumes for right now, because I know we maybe want to touch on cover letters in a moment. But keeping bullet points consistent with the job that you're applying for. If you have to choose from a whole bunch of things that you did, then you could trim out things that don't really apply to this specific position you're applying for, and make sure the things that are really, really relevant are highlighted kind of at the top of the bullet point list. So those would be some of the tips that I would include.
Thank you. I love that idea of being consistent. I think there's a lot of validity to that, and not just copy and pasting. Lisa, especially for something like Rochelow Tool and Die, are there circumstances you consider a candidate, although they might not have all of the requirements? I understand you probably have machinery and standards that have to be met.
Yeah, it really depends on the position. And like everyone else said, we have, production boots on the floor people up through, sales, marketing, accounting, finance, engineering, soup to nuts, pretty much everything we do here. One thing that I like to see is that people actually kind of did their homework a little bit, maybe looked at our website, looked at our Facebook page, try to, tailor their resume to the job that they're applying for. I see a lot of people that looks like they send the same resume. Doesn't matter if they're applying as a short order cook or, a machine operator or, whatever it is. I think that it's nice if I see something that's a little bit more tailored and it looks like the person, put some care into it and looked maybe at what we do and, what the culture is. But, I have people that show up and they're like, what do you do here? Are you hiring? And, that just doesn't feel like they really even care about, getting a job. So, that said, there are also plenty of positions where, someone doesn't have to have any experience. We hire people who don't have a degree, who don't have a high school degree. Everything is not a technical job. And so, you don't want for people to feel like they even necessarily have to have a resume. If someone, walks in and says, hey, I was looking around, I looked you guys up and I thought this might be an interesting place, I'm going to absolutely sit down and talk to that person. If they're going to look me in the eye and have a conversation, that's important.
That is, and that's a set of skills that, although might be hard right now, but doing your research on a company, I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. Know the business you're going to be applying for, see how it fits for you. I think that's a great piece of advice, Lisa. Thank you for adding that on. Mike, what would you add to this? I know you see a lot of resumes pass your desk.
Well, I don't know if I can add anything new to that. Basically, I like the document to be flexible enough that you can fit your resume, to what we're looking for. I mean, don't be making things up, but try to hit, the keywords. I mean, you see the job description, you should have an idea of what the job is. Take things from your experience and use keywords that are going to bring my eyes to those right away, because I'm scanning through multiple resumes and I'm looking for keywords. I might be looking for them with my eye. I might be using Word to help me find those keywords, but the more keywords you can put in there, the more likely you're going to go into the good pile as opposed to the bad pile. That's really all I can say about that.
And I think that's a good point. Using those keywords, like Lisa said, tailoring your resume to the job, do your research on the company. Sam, with 200 folks, I'm sure you've seen yourself a large number of resumes and applicants that might not have always been appropriate for the job. How do you handle that, and what are your tips on that?
So definitely know the company. I've had a lot of experience where we've actually brought people in for the interview and they're like, and what do you do here? And so that's kind of, or if they come in, they think we make paper products, which there are some of our facilities that do paper products or whatever, but just know, kind of, know what we do. For the resume piece is just proofread it, and, have it with no errors, misspellings. That just kind of tells a story about yourself, and but it is an opportunity to tell your story, and what I don't like about a resume is using these humongous words and just embellishing. And so you think, oh my goodness, this person could go to the moon. No, just be precise, just be yourself and tell your story. And really it's an opportunity to market yourself. So, just to take that seriously and, to know the company and exactly right in terms of tailoring it with what we're looking for to your life experiences and work experiences. And I'll tell you, with this COVID pandemic, we all have learned to work differently. And, so January, February, we were tooting right along and didn't feel like we had to change, and then this hit, and then look at, we did a pivot, and so we're all working differently. So even on your resume is how you've lived through and worked through the pandemic.
That's a good point, noting your transition and how you made a transition. That's a really good point to add, especially maybe in a cover letter, talking about that. I think that's really valid. Deanna, as AIS is not only a manufacturer, and I've been on your floor, you have lots of machines, you also have folks in office staff and you have people in distribution. How do you weed through your resumes? What jumps out at you that says this person, would be a good fit for us?
I always go skills, and it's not necessarily just the skills to the position, because, and I'll use the example, Melissa was talking about music. You might have a skill where you play in a band, you play some musical instrument. Well, to me, I see that as teamwork. So that helps me kind of say, this might be a person, maybe not for the position we're looking for, but I have another opportunity where again, this would be a really good fit for us. So, and again, looking at, kids getting out of college right now, they're not necessarily going to have all of the skills that we're looking for this particular position. But what they do have is, if they can present that in there, I always like to look at the candidate. Do you have a can-do attitude? If you have that can-do attitude, and that can come out in a lot of the way you present yourself on your resume, then I'm going to be willing to take the time to train you, because anybody can learn something as long as you have the attitude and the willingness to learn something new. And again, so I like to look at it from the skill set, but not just necessarily specifically what we're looking for that position, but other opportunities within the organization. And I think you can tie all of those things, just not professionally, but personally, into your resume, so that we're able to see you, because we're not having that opportunity to talk. So this is your first opportunity to show me who you are as a person, as an individual, and how you would fit within the organization that you want to jump out at me. And it does get back to spelling counts. I can have a great resume, and I will share this story with you. I was looking for a CFO, and they had senior. This person had senior tax analyst. They worked for a large account. They had senior spelled wrong. Again, a CFO position. And I thought, wow, even at that level. So it happens. So you just need to be very aware of it, look at it, have somebody else proofread it. And again, and it's not a one size fits all mentality, but, be brief. I don't know about anybody else, but when I have a 4-page resume, that's boring. Give me highlights. After page 2, all right, I'm done. So condense that, have those bullet points, and I think that also it keeps you relevant. I don't want to have to dig down 3 or 4 pages. That's not what I'm looking at. Give me a quick synopsis of who you are, and that's how I'm going to decipher whether this is a fit or not a fit.
No, that's good. Deb and Sierra, I'm just curious because Deanna did mention sizes of resume. What is the size? What is a good size resume that you guys are telling folks out there to, get yourself in a position to be seen when your resume is handed over?
Well, for me, usually I tell my students that I work with is try to keep it on the one page. If we can try to keep it on the one page, I think that is the standard. Having people with different backgrounds and try to actually adjust their resume for the position that they're applying for, I think is key here. And having those little remarks on their resume of what their accomplishments are so they're able to be noticed. So that's pretty much what the standard that we're telling them as of now, unless they have a whole bunch of experience that they can try to revise. I tell them, okay, we can keep it at 2 pages then.
Okay. Deb, did you want to add anything to that?
I totally agree with that. And I think letting students know that the resume is a document that will keep growing as they move on in their career. So they may move on to a 2-page or perhaps a 4-page, depending on whether they end up using a CV or not. So it really is going to be a very fluid document over the years, but 1 page for now.
1 page is a good start for sure. And I just want to say great tips out there. Be honest, do your research, be consistent, check your font, spell check, hit keywords, proofread, market yourself, tell them your skills, can-do attitude. Love that, Deanna. Keep it to 1 page and keep it growing. I think those are great, wonderful tips to start you off with a resume. And we're going to move on to the next question. And I'm going to start with Melissa Glenny as someone who hires for other organizations as well as your own. What attributes do you look for in your top candidates? What specific skill set, including soft skills, do you prefer when selecting prospective employees for interviews? I know some folks that you've worked with, and I know that you've given them great advice on this, but when you get so many resumes, how do you sort through them? What do you look for in attributes for your top candidates?
I would say that I look for, generally speaking, I look for drive and people who take initiative and who are consistently reaching for the next thing and they're willing to put the work in. Communication skills is also something that, I'm always keen on. And when I know that's such a broad area, but just I think assertiveness is a big piece of the communication skills. One thing I was going to mention about cover letters is that, I think to what Carl was speaking about earlier, if someone does have something that they would see as not really being a good thing about their resume, maybe there's a gap in their work history that they're going to have to explain. If someone can communicate in such a way on a cover letter where, they're not afraid to just address the elephant in the room and then spin it to, how they persevered and actually use it as an opportunity to highlight a strength instead of letting it remain a mystery to the person reviewing your resume and risking having your resume end up in the, like Mike said, the bad pile. So, I definitely look for someone who's not afraid to be assertive and communicate. I think that's something that's so essential in the workplace. And just overall eagerness to learn and improve, especially when it comes to technology, someone that's expressing that or showing and demonstrating that they're learning new technologies and they're not afraid of that. I think that's another critical thing that's going to continue to be more and more important.
I completely agree. And I think right now being flexible with what you're looking for this is a really good time to learn how to be very flexible for your future. Carl, 4,500 employees. What do you get? What stands out for you for a top candidate? What comes right to the top and says, that's someone I want to interview?
So I'm only going to give one answer. I could give a bunch, but I want to make sure that, I don't take from the other panelists. I will say that the number one thing that I look for that's just gold for me on a resume is somebody who has A, longevity in a company, but B, is grown within that company. Whenever I see somebody who has many years in a company and they've actually been promoted once or multiple times in a company, that tells me this person can really commit, they can take responsibility, and that company saw enough in that person to have them grow within the organization. If I see that on a resume, you go to the very top of the pile, because if somebody else is going to have you grow with them, we're probably going to want you to grow with us too. So that's probably the number one thing that I look for.
Gotcha. So for someone starting out, Lisa, if you have someone that's just starting out, current graduates or currently in school, which are some of our attendees are today, who might not have the longevity or might have, something on there, doesn't have a lot of work history because they've been in academia. What would someone bring in for something in a manufacturing field? And Deanna, you might be able to, and Samantha might be able to speak to this as well.
Well, it kind of depends on the position. If someone's coming in for a marketing or some kind of graphic artist kind of position, then I would look at a portfolio. But if it's a machinist or an engineer, you'd be looking at a whole different set of skills. But really, you want someone to be able to communicate. You want them to show that they're confident in themselves and in what they can do. And, we're willing to work with someone as long as they're willing to actually work with us as well. So confidence is a big part for us.
Sure. Deanna or Samantha or Mike?
Well, I can add to that. I think, and again, it depends on the position that you're looking to hire for, but for me, what I always say to hiring managers is you're not hiring for that position for today. You're hiring for opportunities 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So think about that succession plan as you're bringing in that candidate. Yeah, you need these skills, but where could this person fit, in your 9 block, 3 years from now? Where do you see that person fitting? And I'll always say to other managers, you want to look at somebody, when you're hiring someone within your department, you really want to hire your replacement. That's what you want. You want somebody who wants your job. You're going to be able to learn from them. They're going to learn from you. And the reason being is you might want to move into something else. So you want to make sure that the company is set up in a way that we have that succession plan in place. So yeah, you're looking for those needs today, but you're really looking for that person who you're going to be able to develop into something for the future. That's how I look at it.
That's great advice. Any additions from Sam or Mike?
Well, here we're looking for integrity, respect, humility. So we have guiding principles here, and during the interview, we actually weave those principles into our interview questions. Mm-hmm. And so if you can demonstrate those and give examples of those, we can teach you anything. Mm-hmm. So we can't really teach you integrity. We can't teach you compliance to safety, and in manufacturing, safety is so important. Our machines don't have feelings; they'll bite you. So so you have to respect the machinery. Sure. In the COVID pandemic, safety is at the forefront. If you can demonstrate, those principles and your ability to transform, because we're always changing, that's what we look for.
I agree. I used to hire for a seasonal company, 40 to 50 new hires almost every year. And one of the things that I learned after years of doing it was, I can teach you anything, but I can't teach you your personality. I can't teach you to be confident. I can't teach you to be, a good communicator. That's the things that you have to come in with. I can teach you how to use software. That's not a problem. But it's what are you hiring for and what are you hiring back for? Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add about what you look for in a top candidate?
Yeah, I answered this question from the standpoint of the interview, not the resume. But when I'm doing an interview, I like candidates who stay away from using generalities when they answer my questions. If I ask for a specific example of something they've done in the past, I want to hear a specific example back. I don't want to hear stuff like, well, if I had a situation like that, I'd probably do this. No, I want to hear about a specific time when you did basically what I'm asking you about, and keep it concise. Don't go off for 5 minutes, but give me a specific answer. Answer the question that I asked. Don't try to deflect it or avoid it.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. And in these times when, some interviews might be happening over Zoom or might be happening only on a phone and not being able to do it in person, making sure that you're being very specific on those questions and giving your specific answers, I think would be really useful, because there's not necessarily all the face-to-face that we would have had in normal times. Okay, so let's go on to the third question, which is, have your hiring practices, I can't imagine they haven't, but have your hiring practices changed since the beginning of COVID-19 epidemic? And please feel free to share specific examples. Is there anyone that would like to go first and talk about that? Okay.
I would just say Zoom, 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 Zoom.
I know.
Yeah, that's a lot of Zoom.
change.
Yeah, it has changed. So, Carl, are you guys currently hiring right now for positions, and have you been hiring over the last 4 months?
Yeah, so just like most of the organizations here, we've actually done more hiring as opposed to less hiring during COVID-19. A lot of what we run is group homes for people with special needs. We also have residential programs for young adults. So with those, we're always open, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we're always hiring. So we did an immediate pivot back in March, and we went all online for our hiring. We actually did the same thing for our orientations, where we went from a 5-day in-person orientation to 22 hours of online modules to go through orientation. And we did that pivot in about a week and a half. We put that together and launched that. We're about to actually, starting at the end of this month, do another pivot and do a blended orientation so that people have some in person and some online. But I think Melissa's the one who said it. Everything is online at this point. Zoom, Zoom, Zoom.
Here we are on Zoom.
And I will say that I think something's lost in that too. So we try to do everything we can to really make sure that people understand the jobs that we're offering, you know, what they're getting into. We often do multiple Zoom interviews with different people so we can really kind of flesh out what the job is so people know going into it, because you can't do the in-person that we used to. One of the panelists also mentioned before in a previous question about technology skills. It is so crucial to have those skills because we have had so many people struggle with our onboarding, our interview process, and you know, we can coach, but if you have a hard time getting through that process, how are we going to deal with the rest of our technology and the job itself? So it kind of vets a few people out just by the process alone with COVID-19. But yeah, everything's on its head for the last 4 months, and it's going to be like that probably through the end of the year.
Probably. I also would add that I think that in terms of technology, the generation graduating right now, they deem them the I generation because they all grew up with an iPhone in their hands or very quickly. I think they have a leg up right now, as opposed to someone of my age in their 50s who, you know, is always constantly learning the new technology. And I think that listing those skills is actually very relevant right now. Being tech heavy and tech smart is, you've got a leg up on a lot of things right now, I would say, in terms of just getting through an interview process, it sounds like. And I think that's really valid to mention that to the folks today who are on this meeting, the Zoom meeting, more Zoom.
Yeah, I can't reiterate that enough, Kat. The technology and the younger generation having a leg up. They can teach us so many skills, and it's second nature. It's second nature to them and easy peasy. So definitely mention that on your resume.
Yeah, everybody should. If you're looking for a job, get your Zoom account set up now. It's free, so just get that Zoom account now. Don't wait. Don't wait for it to not. Anybody else want to talk about that? Any practices that have changed for your hiring other than Zoom and lots of tech heaviness?
Yeah, I do have one more thing I could add. I'm seeing more companies who are officially moving to a remote workforce model. And it's been amazing from a recruiting standpoint because we just went from a 30-mile radius to the whole nation to recruit. I mean, it's what it's done for their interview process and their hiring process has been remarkable, to say the least. So I would just say, I think from the candidate standpoint, if you future and realize that this is very likely to be more of a trend as we continue forward. And so my recommendation would be, if you're competing on more of a national level, if you can niche and get really good in a certain area and have a skill set that's just, you know, you can really say that you've got it, you know, your arms around this particular skill set, then you're much more marketable on the national front. And there, you know, because there's so many more opportunities nationally than, of course, in your local geography. So just kind of thinking on a bigger scale, I think, would be my point.
That's a really good point. That really is. So let's go to the next question, which was something that has affected so many people, not only here in Massachusetts, but across the country, is how has the growing unemployment rate affected your hiring decisions? And how can our students, we have many students on from MWCC Community College today, how can our students make their credentials stand out? Let's go with, Melissa, let's start with you on this one, as I know as a hiring agency, you probably have some transition that's happened with the influx of resumes from the unemployment.
Sure. I'll just start with, like, not to be negative, but my biggest frustration through all of this is that we've seen such an increase in applications and resumes coming in, and such a decrease in the people who are actually engaging with us. So we've had a lot of churn and wasted time and energy. So I know, I think Indeed was the creator of the hashtag Ready to Work on resumes. And so however you're communicating that, I think if you are ready to work and you can get that front and center in your messaging that, you know, you are, that those are the resumes that I'm going to first. And talk about goals. I think that, you know, if you can back it up with, I'm ready to work now, and here's what I'm striving to do, you know, those are going to be the first people that I want to talk with.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Mike, do you have any additions to that?
Well, I found this question difficult to answer. Most of our recruiting, it may not apply to our audience here, but most of our recruiting involves entry-level factory jobs, machine operators and things like that. So the growing unemployment rate, quote unquote, is really a misnomer for us. Normally, if the unemployment rate just spiked overnight, we'd have all sorts of people to draw from. But unfortunately, a lot of those folks are, you know, there's a lot of people very happy to sit at home and collect that $600 a week. So the unemployment rate, as far as we're concerned, hasn't gone anywhere. We're finding it just as difficult, if not more difficult, to find people now than we did pre-pandemic. So I don't have anything along those lines in terms of advice. You know, the one thing I will say is that I really value those folks who, they could be sitting at home collecting $600, but they've chosen not to wait until that goes away to start to look for work. They're go-getters. They're out there looking for it right now. They're not waiting for the government to stop paying them a $600 a week check. I like that.
And that's all going to change soon, as we all know that has ended. So I think that the differences are going to be seen. Deanna, has this affected you guys at all?
Yeah, so what I found is, and it gets to what Mike was just saying as well too, you know, we are having people that are sending in resumes or just cover letters, whatever it is. Not everybody has a resume, and they're just, you know, they're seeking employment, and they're being upfront, they're being honest as to why they're looking for employment. And I think that that's really important. I mean, and I know we can all say it's COVID related, but not everything is COVID related. Okay, so, you know, this person is taking the initiative to get off of unemployment and is looking for something now where they really want to get a jump on what's going on. And although, you know, there are a lot of people that are quote unquote unemployed, AIS, like Mike too, there's not a lot of people that are really ready to go back to work yet. I think they were waiting until, you know, they found out, you know, is that $600 going to go away? And when it does go away, we're going to see an influx of people wanting to get back into the workforce. So yeah, there's a lot there, but then that tells you why weren't they working, you know, again. Right. So it gives you that opportunity. You kind of get into why weren't you working and what happened, and that'll tell you, is this person really a team player, or are they just going back to work because I have to go back to work? So we're going to have more to choose from, but is the quality going to be there? Again, there's going to be more people competing for the same jobs. So we just have to make sure that we are making sure we're having those conversations and we're really getting to know the individual, and we're discussing with them, and we're going through everything that you can, try and pull out as much from that person as to decide, is this person the right fit for the organization, and are they going to be a long-term employee, or is this just a short-term fit because they need to get something because unemployment says they have to start, you know, applying for jobs now.
It's interesting. I think that, I'm sorry. Oh, I think that it's interesting because we've also, I've also heard from people that they aren't necessarily staying home for the extra unemployment benefits, but because of safety reasons. And I think that goes back to what Melissa was saying, is that with remote work on the rise, those concerns are usually quelled. So it's good to hear that, that we're going to be hopefully positioning ourselves in a better place in a few weeks in terms of unemployment, and hopefully we'll be able to get folks back to working. Lisa, did you want to add anything, or Samantha?
I see the same thing that Mike and Deanna just said. With the entry level manufacturing positions, it is tough, and with retail and restaurants being shut down, and sometimes we get the people that were working in retail or restaurants coming in, and that they're really just a short term, I just need a job right now. But when the restaurants reopen, they're gonna, that probably they're gonna leave, because that's really where they wanted to be. So it's just definitely a difficult time right now.
So it sounds to me from everyone that's given advice on this is that those who are actually seeking employment are going to stand out. Those who are looking for a job and actively searching and sending in resumes and applying, they are going to stand out just based on the fact that they're actually searching. So my advice, it sounds like what I would say to our audience is that apply and put yourself out there, because that's what people are looking for. And I think it's never easy to apply to something, and to, as a mom of a brand new graduate with a BFA at our house, it is not as always easy to do it. But it sounds to me as if you're even searching right now, you're going to be noticed. And that's really great to hear.
I don't know who brought it up too, and I think the safety protocol too, that's really important, because obviously many of us, we had, individuals that are working at home, still working at home. So it's important to highlight what you've done as a company to keep the work environment safe. And, coming into a job new now, it's kind of scary when you go in there, because, everybody's wearing masks. If you're not able to implement social distancing, and not all areas in manufacturing are we able to do social distancing, because we have cells that have to work together. So, it's hot. I'd love to say that, AIS is air conditioned out in the manufacturing facility, but it isn't. So it can get hot, and you have to have a mask on. And that's not just for, operators and assemblers. I have, engineers that are out there. I have project managers that have to go out there. And now, so the new norm for them is they have to wear face masks, and they have to make sure that they're doing everything they can, properly wash their hands, sanitize, and keeping the social distancing. And, where we would once gather in groups to go through things, we're not doing that as often. So there's a lot more in the way we're communicating. It's not necessarily the face-to-face, it's more so in emails. And sometimes that can get lost in translation. So I think, as a company, we need to be honest and let, prospective employees know, here's what we're doing to keep you safe, and here's what we want you to do to keep other employees safe. So be upfront, be open, and let them know. And this is the new normal until we've, come up with some other way of doing it. So it's changed for all of us, and that changes every day too. So
Samantha
I
and
would
Carl?
I'm sorry. I would just like to add, in terms of to stand out to employers, is just invest in yourself and invest the time in the process, like to do your research, to have, a precise resume, error-free and all that. But to make that investment up front, I think will allow you to stand out.
And if I can hop in and just dovetail off of what Deanna and Samantha were saying, it's really important for candidates to be able to ask the questions of employers. What are you doing to keep your employees safe? I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had in the last 4 months with potential employees who are curious about it. They're very concerned about coming back into the workforce. They want to know what the companies are doing and putting in place to protect them. And it's a really good conversation to have. It's an honest conversation to have. In Groton, Massachusetts, we have a pediatric center that works with 83 medically complex children. And, for the nurses and the CNAs who apply to go there, I'll have a 20-minute conversation just about the PPE we use and how that we have access to it. And at a national level, we'll have conversations about what our protocols are, what our requirements are, our expectation for our employees to keep them and the kids safe. So I think just for anybody on this call who will be, interviewing for jobs, feel free to ask those questions. It's in your right to do so, and you should know going into the workforce how the company is going to protect you.
Those are really great points, and timely right now, obviously. But in general, I think for some of the manufacturing positions and other positions working with individuals with disabilities, there's definitely a safety concern always in your workplace. So asking those questions, I think, also shows your investment in the company. It shows that you are doing your due diligence to find out what they're doing, but it also shows that you want to protect yourself. And I think those are really good questions, as you said. Everyone on the panel has said those are good questions to ask and shows your commitment to what you're doing. So as Deb has mentioned in the chat, we are going to be moving to open Q&A soon, and we have a couple questions that are waiting. We have one last question. I'd like everyone on the panel to answer this, and we'll start with Carl. What are the most important factors that play into the decision to make an employment offer?
So for us as a nonprofit, we have a mission that really everything that we do every single day with our operations, with who we hire, with what we do, has to do with our mission, and that's supporting people who need help, whether that's somebody with special needs, whether that's a child that was abused and now came into our services, whether it's somebody in end of life care. We need to hire people that are really devoted to the mission that we have. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, and that's why I'm still here, is about that mission. Whether it's working in our programs or in HR now, that's why I'm still here, and that's what we're looking for. It's people who really want to have a purpose every day that they go to work, and no matter what you do with the organization, that's what you get out of it. So that's really what we're looking for.
Excellent. Melissa?
That's so difficult for me to answer because it's so dependent, I think, on the position. In some cases, values are going to be really important, the alignment of the person's values with the company values. And in other cases, it's more along the lines of the skills. And as long as there's a reasonable alignment with the key values for that position, then it would be, more along the lines of skills. I think that if I was to summarize, though, I would say, in hiring recent college grads, it's the eagerness to learn and contribute, and just an overall alignment with, the general values of the company and the aptitude for the core functions of the position that they're going to be serving in.
That's very good advice. Deanna?
I agree 100% with what Melissa was saying. It's dependent on the position, and I think a lot of it is, again, it's values and their skills, so it really depends on that. The other part of that is, too, I think, culturally. You can have the best candidate that can have everything that you're looking for, skill set, but may not fit culturally. And that's a big part of it. I mean, every time I talk to somebody, I say to them, you spend more time with the people you work with versus your own family. So you want to make sure that this is going to be the right fit, not only for you, but we need to make sure that it's going to be the right fit for the company. So, and you can really pick up on that. I mean, a resume, it's hard to do that, but when you have that interview, it's really, you're able to really hone in, is this person going to fit culturally within the organization? Because some people won't. And it depends, again, on the position you're hiring for, or the hiring manager, because everybody has little things that they like differently. And I'll use as an example, most recently, we're looking for a purchasing agent, and the hiring manager was very disappointed that after the interview, there was no follow-up email saying thank you, just a simple thank you. And again, that might not be a big thing for you, but for this particular manager, that was really a sticker, and she wanted that and didn't get it, and it didn't leave a good taste in her mouth about one of the candidates who was clearly technically able to do the job, but that just, kind of like, it didn't work for her. And she felt, well, that just shows that they're not good at following through. Okay. So again, it depends on the manager. It depends on, the department they're working in. So I think culturally they have to fit, and you have to make sure that there's a good balance between the values and the skills.
That's really good. That's a great addition. Just to put in a personal, my recent graduate applied for a position. She asked me what she should do next, and I said, well, give him a call or send an email, say thank you. I'm curious what the job. She said, well, I just applied. I said, that's okay. And she made a phone call, and they said to her on the phone, you're the only person out of over 100 that has called.
Yes.
And whether that goes forward or not doesn't matter, because that's the impression you leave. It's one quick
Right.
phone call, it's one email, it's one thank you note you drop in the mail. I know nobody
Yep.
uses snail mail anymore, but it is one step further to stand out, as in the top candidate.
Yeah.
Mike, what would you add to that?
Well, I'm glad Deanna brought up that point about the follow-up email. Because, I mean, it's something that I've always done, and it seems to be becoming something of a lost trait. I got to tell you, if you get to the end and you've got 2 or 3 candidates that are more or less a tie, the tie's going to the person who sent me that follow-up email thanking us for the time. So that's a huge factor. Beyond that, what I have to say is pretty much what's already been said. You need to have a good feeling that the person can do the job. And jobs change, companies change so much these days that we like to see somebody that we feel as though it's got the flexibility, the versatility that they can move into other stuff or can grow with the job as the job changes, because jobs just don't stay the same these days. Beyond that, it's the culture fit. Do we get an idea that the person in front of us is going to fit with the rest of the wacky people that we have back here? That type of thing.
Samantha?
Yeah, I the culture fit, the skills, values. I think just to leave us with a sense of excitement about the interview and about joining the company, and know that you're interviewing us as well. And I always go with my gut. I think my gut tells me a lot, and you might feel like it's not your place to work, and that's okay. So I think the excitement and just being yourself. And I know a lot of times people will get nervous during the interview. I try to calm people down and really be yourself, because that's what we're hoping to see when we have you join our team.
Lisa?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone else is saying. You really have to feel like you made a connection with the person and that they're going to be a good fit for your company, because like everyone else, even if you start off in an entry-level job, we try to hire from within as much as we can and promote people. We love to be able to have someone moving up in the company. So if we feel like you're a good fit, we can train you pretty much for anything. So really, that connection is important.
I want to say to all of our participants, the advice that they're giving is such great advice as someone that's hired many people. They are giving wonderful advice out here, and I think some of the stuff they just said: know the mission of the company, be adjustable to what you're going. Is there a good culture fit? Show excitement. Do your research. That has come up several times today. I think that's a great one. Give a follow-up email. Give a follow-up phone call. Give that little reach out. But I think one of the best things that was just said here was that you're interviewing the company as well. This isn't just them interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. Go in with questions during your interview for them. Shows you did the research, shows you actually have a little excitement about this position. I think these are all really amazing points that has been made today. So I'm excited to open this up for Q&A. We have some Q&A. So what I'd like to do is with our panel, if you are, Mike, I can't see your virtual hand, but you can speak up. I'm going to ask the questions from our audience, and if our panel would raise their hand if they would like to answer, so that way we don't have everyone answering at once. Some of these questions will be more specific to your industries and your hiring practices. So and also, just remember, please use the Zoom chat box if you want to ask. I did see a hand raised earlier. I know that hand went down, but I'm excited to find out who would like to ask that. But I'm going to go with our very first question was, how do you look at students with associate degrees in bio when you hire? Any takers on that one?
Can we get a little clarification on the question? I'm not sure I'm completely following.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you want to, I'll make sure I give a chat here, and we will see if we can't get some clarification on that, and we'll go to the second question until that comes in. Question was, I'm very curious about how diverse their employees, particularly how diverse their employees are, particularly when it comes to African American and Latinx. Yes, Carl, of course.
I just want to say, Seven Hills Foundation, we're an enormous organization. I just checked on our website to make sure that I was accurate. We have 58 countries represented at our organization. One of the companies on this call had mentioned before, when you go in their lobby, they have all the flags. We have the same kind of thing. We have a place in our main office in Worcester where flags from every single country represented by our employees is in kind of a lobby area. We have a really active diversity and inclusion committee. Our president and CEO, David Jordan, has come out with an official statement about how important diversity is. So we really cherish it. The way that our company approaches this is the more diverse we are, the more strength we have in that diversity, and that's how we approach everything. So, we actively try to have a diverse workforce on every level too. It's easy to do that at some levels and not other levels, and we really try to make an active role in doing that at all levels.
And I think that's important to everyone right now, that being inclusive. Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, I love what Carl just said, and I've always admired AIS for their diversity, and I just wanted to mention that when I'm consulting with companies, I often am talking with them about the idea of culture add and avoiding culture restriction, because I really see where when companies are being very deliberate and in a controlled way shaping the culture that they need in order to support their values and ultimately their performance, they really are at an advantage. So we're having those discussions on a regular basis with our customers to make sure that they're not getting trapped into their kind of a restricted culture, and keeping a focus on expanding it.
Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else want to add into that before I move on? Okay. How do you decide? How do you evaluate a person with foreign experience or skills? Yeah, Melissa.
Sure. I can just say, for us, the only thing that I see coming into play that we really have to give maybe some special consideration to when we have someone who is from a foreign country is just the ability to communicate in English to the level that we need. And that varies so much depending on the job itself, but that's really the only variable that we kind of would have to add on to the requirements list.
Okay. And how do you decide someone has the right skill for any kind of job?
Well,
yes, Deanna.
I think it's for any type of job, that's just really, it's very broad, but I think once we start the conversation, it gets back to, I'm not sure who said it, but when we're asking questions, be honest. And it may not be a skill that's job related. It could be more so something you're doing outside of your professional career. So I think you'll know more, and it's just the questions and more questions and more questions. So the conversation's really going to drive whether or not they have the right skills. So if I'm looking for somebody who's going to be training and doing things like that, they have to be able to communicate and be able to think on their feet. So I think the skill is, what job are we looking for? And then the questions and the way that we're gearing those questions is really going to allow us to pull out, do they have the skills that we need in which to accomplish the job that we're looking to fill? So it's not a one size fits all. Those skills are going to be all over the place. But again, it comes out in the interviewing process. So make sure you're prepared. You know what you're interviewing for. You know what those skill sets are. And you may not have the professional experience to answer the question, but you should have some sort of life experiences that's going to help person who's interviewing you to get a better understanding of where you would fit within the organization with the skills that you currently have, and how we're able to develop those skills if you were to be the selected candidate to come on board.
I think that's very relevant. I think that sounds really good. I think the most important thing for that one also is that you might have 50 jobs available at a company, and you might not have hands-on experience necessarily, but you have life experiences, like Deanna said, that would quite easily fit into something. I never realized, having done over 500 webinars, how those skills would come into play until COVID hit and everything turned into a webinar or a Zoom meeting. And those skills really do follow you, and having life skills, regardless of having the actual hands-on necessarily, because everyone has to start somewhere, having the skills that can get you into the position and help you learn those skills, I think is really important.
Actually, I have to thank you guys for answering my question on that one. That was my question, and that was really helpful because I've been having some lack of skills lately because of this whole COVID-19 situation, and I've looked into like those like manufacturing jobs and beyond for that will fit into my set skills that I had previously when I did these kind of like searching applications. And looking back in the past, like I can now see that I had some hands-on experience, but to me, when I looked into the job, it's like, was it really necessary for me to put it on my resume or describe it in my cover letter at the time? And to me, that seemed like it wasn't necessary, but I think I should have used it more towards in the past to actually get me the job that I needed.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad you took something away from that, because I think that a lot of younger folks who are entering the job force might actually have experience that they don't necessarily consider, and that you really could move forward with what's already in your bag of tricks, right? You've already got it, you don't know it. Yes, Momo.
Yeah, please. I had an experience once that I went for the interview, and it's different culture, right? My culture, when you're talking to somebody, especially an older person, you can look directly in their eyes and talk. You have to bend your head down a little bit of this. So my first time I went for the interview, and the lady was talking to me. So she went at eye contact, but she asked all the questions and I answered everything, but she couldn't give me the job. So after what I asked her, I said, what did I do wrong? She said, because your body language was so bad, you could not look at me in my eyes and other things and talk. So I was like, no, I mean, it's kind of different. I can just look in your eyes and talk, especially you being an older person. So there was a little problem. So another time again, I went somewhere for the job. I got the job, everything. And one of the ladies that was my co-worker, so when she's talking to me, I'm looking at her face like this and talking. And she was like, she carried my complaint that I'm trying to kind of harass her because I keep looking at her face and her breasts in between here. So sometimes it's kind of weighted up for us, which is different culture. And sometimes employers should be able to look at some of the factors and other things too, so that you can just disqualify everyone.
I agree. Yes, Carl.
I'd like to hop in on this one, and Momo, I appreciate you sharing that. I've actually talked about this a lot with our diversity and inclusion committee, and how all of these things are really relative to a culture. So in some cultures, it is respectful to do direct eye contact. In other cultures, it's the exact opposite. If you do that, it's seen as aggressive. And these are really hard things to bring into an interview, because everybody comes to that interview with a different paradigm. My recommendation to you would just be true to who you are and what you're, if you prefer to make direct eye contact or not, I would just stay true to that. We actually did a series of trainings with our managers last year on just this topic, on how to, look at the interview process from different cultural perspectives for exactly the reason that you're mentioning.
Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, I'd love to bounce off of that. Momo, I'm trying to read your name.
Yeah,
Momo. If you may want to look this up, there's a TED Talk that you just reminded me of that talks about 3 different types of communication styles, and 70% of the population of the world are visual communicators, and so we look at each other's in the eye when we speak together. But there's a 30% that are audible communicators and tactical communicators. So in an audible communicator case, you actually have to look away in order to process your thoughts. So I'm sharing this with you because if I was interviewing you, I would so appreciate it if you, at the onset of the interview, could just say, listen, I'm an audible processor with my thoughts. And so if I'm not looking you in the eye, I'm not meaning to be disrespectful. It's just the way that I process my thought process is. And I would totally respect that. And I'd understand where you're coming from. And So that's just my piece of advice for you.
You know,
I
I'm
think
actually
this-
going to chime in on this one
Yes, please.
because I'm actually a person who is actually both visual and audio. So in my case, I've had an interview previously where like I was doing a bit of both, looking into direct eye contact and also having to look away because I was also audio as well, and that kind of like differentiates for me because because the fact that I'm actually like I'm a different culture myself. Actually, I'm actually a Hispanic myself. So in that sort of case, like direct eye contact or like having to look away, like to some people that may seem like it's a little rude and whatever. And I try to explain that to people because of the fact I don't look like it. I don't look like Hispanic. I look more like everybody else because of the way I look. But the way I talk, it's like to everybody, I'm more like English person or like, you know, Britain, but I'm Hispanic. And I usually have to sometimes explain that because nobody thinks that because of the way I look and the way I talk. And so Momo, I can understand from a cultural different perspective because like I said, I'm Hispanic, and being an audio and visual person during interviews, that it gets a little bit, it's very difficult because you have both. And it has been difficult for me growing up with that sort of situation, especially in interviews. So I can understand from a different culture's perspective.
And I think that, you know, kind of going back to what was said earlier is sort of addressing the issue right off the bat. We were talking earlier about if you have gaps in your employment or there's a reason that that's not there, is just talk about it. And I think this can fall right into that. As a very visual person, I can look right at you and I might not hear every single thing you're saying during an interview. And I think that it's really good to, if you have something that you want to address before an interview starts, is to do that. I think this was talked about at the very beginning. Carl mentioned be honest with who you are and what you're presenting. I think those are all who you really are. Those are your honest traits. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing to address. I think that a cultural difference or a visual versus an audio learner, I think that all of those things are valid and they are part of who you are. And you never know, being someone who is both audio and visually as a learner, that could be exactly what they're looking for. So I think that there's a lot of positives that could come out of that necessarily, not necessarily just a negative learning experience on that. So we have some more questions. I'm going to get to the next question. I am currently pursuing an associate degree in natural resources at MWCC Community College and already have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Physics in 2001. I am, however, in my 50s. Hi, welcome to the club. And while worried about my age discrimination, I have found most places who are interested in me often want to do a position that I do not wish to pursue as a supervisor or manager, for instance. How do I try to keep a potential employer be open to me doing an entry-level job in the laboratory with potential to move up? Anyone on our panel? Deanna.
I think for that, because they're looking and they're maybe thinking that you have a skill set that is more advanced than an entry-level position, that's where it's really important to include in your cover letter what you're looking for and kind of, describe to them, how you've gone from your bachelor's to an associate's in a different field and why you did that and what your goal is in finding that next opportunity. I think that will stand out because, again, it gets back to we're looking at resumes, so we're probably looking more at a timeline, and you may have all of those relevant experiences that put you more advanced than what we're looking for as far as entry level. So explain yourself as to why you're doing it and what your preferred outcome is. I think that's very, very important. And the only opportunity that you could do that would be, again, in the cover letter, followed by your resume, which is going to support exactly what you just said in that little cover letter. That's how I would do it.
Good advice. Okay. Next question is, do you train someone who does not have the experience but has great interest? Yes. All heads are nodding. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I would agree. I think that especially for folks coming out of college, it's never easy as you've done all of the hard work to get that degree and you really want to start your experiential side of life. And I think that all the things that we mentioned before, doing the research, interviewing the company, don't just be interviewed by them. I think those are all signs of great interest into the company. Do your research. I think that has been 100% the theme today.
Actually, I do have a question following up for that, actually. What would you say regarding for that for a student, let's say, who has is halfway through towards their degree but hasn't been able to finish up with that, like say has to be taken, like leave the school, say. I'm actually asking this from me because I'm actually not currently a student anymore, not because of this pandemic, but because of certain academic issues I've had in the past, and I've been looking. And Sierra, you know about this. You know that I've been out of school a lot longer than most other students have. So you know that for me, it's a little difficult trying to find a work because I don't have like the degree or more of the knowledge that I'm supposed to have. So what would be the best way for me to apply because I don't have like the degree that most employers would be looking for?
Carl, I saw you raised your hand earlier. Did you want to speak to this as well?
I was actually going to speak to what was mentioned right beforehand. I was just going to put out, I don't mean to interrupt the question that was just asked.
That's all right.
So I just wanted to add that I get a lot of people who are starting their career and they're afraid to start in an entry-level position. So I really want to just say I appreciate the question that was asked before, because I get a lot of people who come out with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree and they want to just start into like a management position, or they want to start into like a middle level position. And I just wanted to just put out there, it's not bad to start in an entry-level position, really learn the position, learn the company, and then grow from there. I think some people are afraid of doing that it's a step backwards. And I just really want to put out there, don't be afraid to do that. You know, put in 6 months to a year and then start going for those promotions. It's a really nice way to approach a career. So that's what I want to share before. But
can anyone address the question right now, talking about not having necessarily the degree, but having the interest and looking still for something that might, be looking for work, but not necessarily finish your degree on that? Anyone can address that? Sure.
And I can just speak to that as well a little bit. So we get a lot of people who start like a degree in nursing, for example, and life happens where something in their family, something in their financial situation, or just something else unrelated entirely happens, and they take a break. We don't look down upon that. We've had a lot of people who kind of have taken a break from school, join us, get really set up. Our full-time benefits include a lot of tuition reimbursement. So a lot of people will use that as a jumping board to get back into school. We offer for undergraduate degrees $3,000 a year to help you pay for undergraduate. And I've had a lot of people after 6 months with us in a full-time position use that to get back into school. So we wouldn't look down on that.
No, I would reiterate that. And, we all have stuff that happens in our lives, but I think just invest in yourself. If you really want a position, go after it. Like I said, do your research, and just get in front of us. And, you come on board, you could finish that degree, or you might want to go in a different direction. But just, I think that interest, that enthusiasm, and just
it goes a long way.
Yeah, just you being part of this conversation shows me an eagerness that you want to get out there. So,
right.
Momo, did you have something to follow up with?
Yeah, I just got an experience recent. I think 2 months ago, I got a new job at UMass. Just what she's talking about your qualification. So the job needed a BSc qualification, and I don't have it. I was doing my AA. I've not even completed my associate. So what I did was that I went online on the company's website and I read about this position a lot. I got myself working with it. I exercised it with my wife and we talk about it over and over. I have to say I'm the fit. So I did everything. When I got there, the lady looked at my resume and she said, "You don't have the degree." I said, "Yes, but I have the qualification. I don't have the degree, but I have it." So she was like, "What do you mean?" So we had an interview and it went very well. And I think it was 7. I was the least person among all. And the HR did not call me back, but she told the HR to call me. So they were like, "Why?" He said, "Because he has a better knowledge of what he want to do than the other people." So sometimes reading about what you want to do must give you an upper hand than the degree you're looking for.
Thank you, Mama, actually. And actually, just actually last week, I did actually have an interview for this company actually, and I was successful to pass the first interview with them, and I actually was able to snag the second interview literally a few days later. Like they called me the very next day, and like I did do my research, and I have to say I didn't think they would come back to me because I mean I didn't have like the full skill sets that they were looking for, but I believe my knowledge had exceeded probably what they were looking for versus other candidates for me to snag that second interview. And
Life
I
experiences. Life
I was just gonna
experiences are
say,
so important. They really are.
Yeah.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes. I have a couple more questions I'd really like to get to. And this was the clarification from the question earlier. Yes, what I mean is that I'm getting my associate degree from the community college. So if I apply to any of those jobs, do I have any priority to be selected, or how do you evaluate students with that sort of a degree? This is the young person who was getting their degree in biology. So that was the clarification on that. Yes, Melissa.
I don't know if I can lend maybe a little here. I don't work specifically in, I think it was biotech, but we do a little bit of that. And all I can say is that a degree is fabulous. It always puts somebody in the best standing, I would say. But even having a good amount of the education, it still, I don't think, would preclude somebody if they don't have the actual degree, if they've got some of the education, and that's certainly valuable. In a lot of cases I've seen with companies in biotech that we work with, if there isn't any biotech education, that's usually a disqualifier.
Okay, so we're going to take this as the last question, and I actually think it's a real good ender. It says, candidates are expected to follow up with thank you notes. How do you follow up with candidates who are not offered a position? Deanna.
So I always send, I'll call it my thank you, but no thank you, we've moved on. But I also put in there whereby I will suggest to the candidate, and if you, like to discuss this further, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me, because I want to be able to let the candidate know the decisions behind why we selected another individual. So, and it's not all, and again, it can get down to it just really, neck and, this person did that or whatever. So I always want to give them that opportunity so that they can have a follow-up with me, but I always let them know. I never leave a candidate hanging. I think that's one of the worst things an employer can do. Because if we expect them to, in turn, thank us, I want to thank them for taking the time out of their day. And I want to be honest and let them know that we have moved on. There's nothing worse than waiting by the phone for that, oh my God, did I get the job or did I not get the job? But I also want them to have the opportunity to say, what could I have done differently? What was your reasons behind that? And I'm always very honest, and I will share with them the reasons behind that. I never not do that, because I think it's an opportunity for them for the next job, if it's something that's going to help them, to make them get that job. It may not have been here in AIS, but it may give them the opportunity to get an upper hand on the next job that they go for. So I always follow up with them.
That's really great advice. Yes, Melissa.
And just a tip, in closing an interview, I recommend asking, always stating your interest first and foremost. If it is a position that you're really interested in, then say that and express your excitement. Sometimes that goes a long way, just have the hiring manager hearing that. And then in addition to that, I think something that helps people as they go through interview processes and get more comfortable with it and really hone their abilities there, is to ask the manager after you've stated your interest to just say, so once you've completed your process, if I am for some reason not your chosen candidate, do you mind if I ask you for your feedback? And they may say no or just blow it off, but they may say yes. And there's a lot of value that you can get from that if they are willing to give you the reasons that you weren't chosen.
I actually think that's great practice. I think every time I would not hire an individual, the ones who came back and said, what could I do differently? Could you let me know if there's a different position that would fit? Actually is really very well done, because while they might not have been a fit for myself at customer service, they might have been a great fit in a different department. And that's a great way to follow up and make that connection with the hiring person of the business. Because while you might not have been a fit, like Deanna said, for this position, it might have been a neck and neck situation, and now you're just not that candidate. But doing that follow up and creating that relationships help that HR manager remember you, or that HR hiring person. And then that gives you that one leg up that says, oh, you know, I remember this candidate and maybe this would be a better fit. Those relationships go such a long way. They truly do. And that puts us at 101, because there's just so much to talk about here. I know that Sierra has some great upcoming programs that I would love for her to share with our group today. And if you have a question, my email is kdeal@northcentralmass.com. Please feel free to reach out to me. Everyone has Sierra's email as well. We did have a question that came in late, and I'm going to pass it on to our panel at a later date, and we'll get that response to David. And we didn't forget about you, David. It just was a little late in the program. We had so many great topics today. So Sierra?
Hi again. So I wanted to share with you our upcoming Wachusett Community College Career Services event. In August, we have an elevator pitch video contest, and it's for the whole month of August. And the deadline will be August 31st. You can submit your elevator pitch video to us at Career Services at Wachusett. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. It's Career Services at MWCC.mass.edu. And the submission guidelines for it, they'll be judged according to the following: the length, maximum of 1 minute long. Your video must include your name, field study, expected year of graduation, mention of your target audience, and submit entries by August 31st. The winner of this contest will be announced during September's Career Services Resume and Cover Letter Writing Workshop, which take us to our next event, which is in September, September 24, I believe. So if you're ready to submit your resume and cover letter, and just make sure that you get those key points, use perfect highlights, and the different components of your resume included. You can learn this information from us, and it will be very informative. And to register, all you have to do is send us an email, careerservices@mwcc.mass.edu. And thank you so much for your participation. So for further information, please feel free to contact me at careerservices@mwcc.mass.edu or Deal @northcentralmass.com. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to our panel, Carl, Melissa, Lisa, Mike, Samantha, Deanna. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I just can't thank you enough. Great tips and great information. And I all look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.